Well, welcome inside a semifinal Friday edition of the Scores Table. My name is Brian Henshin, joined by Danny Rago. It was a bonkers night of high school girls basketball. We have a loaded show coming up for you. Kelsey Steele, head coach of the Westfield Shamrocks, who upset Noblesville tonight in Sectional 8, is going to join us. Lauren Baer, Tri-West senior, who had a huge night, hit some crazy shots, is going to join us after that. Kyle Neddenriep, who is at Ben Davis for the Sectional 11 tournament, where we saw Avon win a wild one over Ben Davis, and then Pike beat Plainfield at the buzzer in another unbelievable finish, which you just saw on the screen. And then Kyle Sokeland will bring us home with his report from Gibson Southern's 39-37 win over Castle, another game that went down to the wire. Danny, I'll let you pick where we start. We have about 5 minutes here before Kelsey comes on.
Okay. I'm still trying to catch up. Like, I just got home and I was figuring out who won and who lost and what happened, and I had to answer it seemed like 100 text messages. So Sectional 11, right? I mean, that was the game that I was at, and that was the Pike Plainfield buzzer beater. I mean, just an unbelievable environment. I'm not gonna get too deep into this because I don't want to steal Neddenriep's thunder, but it was fantastic tonight. Both games, like the Act 1 and Act 2, both lived up. Both were great games, star-studded, and it was super entertaining.
Just an unbelievable game. I was in the bowels of Lebanon. I had our photographer, Grace Smith, texting me updates on the Westfield game while I'm standing outside a locker room. And then I was just constantly refreshing Kyle's feed to see what happened in the Pike game. And then as those updates are coming in, I'm seeing what Soke's tweeting from Gibson Southern. I mean, just it was an unbelievable night all around. And honestly, Danville almost fell into the trap of the upset. So I told Kaylee after is that on a night of just upsets and chaos, Danville was kind of teetering there too. Let's talk about, we have Kelsey on now with us. Danny, we'll bring her on here in just a second, but let's talk about Westfield and Noblesville. And you asked on Thursday, what team was most likely to pull it off. And I thought Westfield was the obvious answer, and Westfield delivered. They pull out the 61-52 win over Noblesville. We'll go ahead and bring Kelsey on now. Coach, how you doing?
Good. Tonight was fun.
Congrats on the win.
Thank you. Yeah, our kids played really hard tonight.
So let's just start big picture and get your general thoughts on the game and what was clicking for you tonight. I know the shooting was lights out.
Yeah, I mean, in the first half we shot the ball well, but I mean, as much as we shot it well, we guarded really well in that first quarter. I mean, our kids were locked in defensively, but we knew, I mean, Meredith Tipner is so good. So I told the girls at halftime, I'm like, it's unrealistic to think that we're not going to allow her to score. She gets to her spots. She's able to create space. There's just so much about her game that's really difficult. But so they went on a run in the second quarter, but I just felt like we stayed composed tonight. Like in the regular season, we did not, and we allowed their pressure to turn us over in critical moments. And we really took care of the basketball when we needed to.
That was the score that I kept going back to when I looked at your guys in that matchup with Noblesville, was just how close you played them during the regular season. And it just a low scoring, like, 2-point game. I mean, how much does that do for a team confidence wise going into tonight?
Yeah, for sure. I think it helps. Like, I mean, it allowed our girls to realize, like, hey, we've been here before, and like we had a really good chance. We actually had a the ball in front of our bench, and we just didn't make a play. And in that game, what a lot of people don't know is we had a decent lead. We probably led by about 15 in that game, and we turned the ball over down the stretch, and they scored 16 points off of our 19 turnovers, and I mean, that's a big difference in the game. So we knew going into this game, if we could try to eliminate some of those live ball turnovers that spark points for them, it would put us in a pretty good position.
Kelsey, congratulations.
Thank you.
My text thread was filled with a lot of Westfield stuff. I will do this because I feel like I have to just for me. But I owe you an apology because I was talking all about this Noblesville Southeastern matchup on Saturday night, and that just put it out in the universe. And so you guys, congratulations, and you get to practice in the morning and play tomorrow night, and that's got to be a great feeling as a coach. My question for you, just was there something about Noblesville's scheme? I mean, Hank already kind of referenced that you played them to a 2-point game, 53-51 in the regular season, and in the postseason, you end up getting them. Was there just what was it about Noblesville that just fit your eye, or was it just? Am I missing there?
No, I mean, I think first of all, I'll say like Noblesville is so good at what they do, right? Like that 1-3-1, their 3-2 that they throw at you, they're so good and they're athletic in it and they can turn you over. But for us, like in that first quarter, they were in a 3-2 for a little while, and our kids really got going shooting the basketball. And that's been something that we've been a question mark sometimes this year. Like I know people talk about our defensive effort, and like that's because that's what we have to do every night. We don't always shoot the ball like we did tonight. The hope is that we always do, but we have to guard people. But yeah, Noblesville, Coach Donna at Noblesville, she does a great job, and they're going to play you in a zone, like what's coming, and we were able to prep for that this week. We brought in some different people to help just try to simulate their athleticism and what they were going to do to us pressure wise, and I think that helped us a little bit too.
So you referenced the start and you shooting well, and your preparation kind of leading into it. Is that just what you attributed to, or was there something special that you guys did tonight to get off to a better start?
I mean, I feel like our kids have been getting shots up. Obviously, I mean, having the bye, we were able to practice this whole week, and Audra Parker was huge for us tonight off the bench in the first half. I don't know how many threes she hit, 4 or maybe 5. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't looked at the scorebook yet, but yeah, I mean, we just kept telling them like play free. Like Danny, you kind of referenced like nobody really expected us to win, so we're like just go out and play free. Like, and I feel like giving them the freedom to do that helped them knock down some shots tonight.
We should brag on Audra Parker a little bit. Her sister, Avery, who's playing softball at Indiana, tweeted to me during the game and pointed out their sister had the 14 points in the first half, 4 first half threes for her, finishes with 17. Her previous career high was 10, right? So monster performance for her. Then you get 12 more from Michaela Hatcher. And then like you referenced the 3-point shooting, I mean, 43% that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. Like I said, Audra making 4 in the first half was huge for us. I mean, she made a couple that we really needed. And Michaela's a little bit of an X factor for us. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize what she does, but defensively, she really gets after people. She's physical, she's tough, and she was able to knock down some big free throws tonight. And she just stayed composed, which was really good.
I had it on at the game that I was covering, and every time I peeked down, it seemed like I'm assuming that it was Crockett with her 9 assists and 13 rebounds. I'm assuming that it was her that was just kind of keeping everybody calm and not letting you guys get too sped up against that press and the various things that Noblesville likes to do.
For sure. Like Aubrey is one of those kids that I've told people this for a long time. She's a good passer, and she rebounds the heck out of the ball. But defensively, Aubrey's actually really good with pressure. Like her arms are longer than what people think. Like I think people look at her and she's not as big as her sister and all those things, but her arms are long. She's able to create some different things for us defensively. And you're exactly right. Like she's a senior for us. She's the kid that people are looking to, that they want to talk in timeouts and situations like that. So for sure, Aubrey is, that's what we get from her, right? Like 9 assists, 13 rebounds. She's going to do the dirty work, the stuff that doesn't always show up. I mean, that stuff shows up in the stat sheet, but the rest of it doesn't really. And I mean, we need that from her.
What's so impressive too is that when you guys got the 18-point lead, and even as Noblesville pushed back, the girls just kept putting the foot down. And did it ever get closer than a 2-possession game at any point?
I don't remember it ever getting closer than that. I'll be honest. There's still a part of it. I'm like, I mean, I obviously go back and watch it, but I don't remember that. I feel like we were always at that like 2-possession mark. But I'll be honest, there's no lead that feels safe when you're playing against Meredith Tipner. Like I'll just be, I mean, just being completely transparent. Like she's able to put up almost 40 on you herself. Like, and she does it making shots falling away with hands in her face. Like there's just so many things that you're like, my goodness, like that was really good defense. That's just better offense. And she's, I mean, I don't know. I tell people all the time, I think she's one of the best girls basketball players I've seen in the state. And obviously I've watched a lot of them, but she's, yeah. So trust me, even that lead never felt like I looked at my assistants and I'm like, I don't care how big this lead gets. That doesn't feel comfortable to me right now.
So I guess just with Tipner, how did you defend then? Did you just kind of like, she's going to get hers, we'll do our best, but let's make sure that nobody else, like a Kate Rollins or their point guard, can go off?
Yeah, I mean, we really just wanted to make her touches difficult. Like we wanted to try to get her outside of her spots a little bit. And then, I mean, there was a couple of people that we were able to help extra off of, and just really try to make it to where she'd have 4 hands in her face when she's shooting, or get a hand up as much as we possibly can. I mean, some of her shots, like her step back to her left, like she's got a hand in her face and she's stepping straight back to her left hand or to her left, and she's able to knock it down. But you just look out there and you're like, yeah, that's all right. Like that's a tough shot that you're forcing. But yeah, I mean, we tried to surround her with about 2 people every time she caught it, if we could. Obviously certain people on the floor makes that a little bit difficult. Hutchinson started shooting the ball well for him down the stretch, so we couldn't really leave her much. But we knew the basketball was going to be in her hands a lot of the time. So we just wanted to make sure she felt people around her every time she touched it.
One other question for me, and then I'll let Danny take it for a few, but how did you get this team to buy in and believe that they could pull an upset like this? Because I know, so much of this is mental. So as a coach, how do you go about that side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I've told a couple of people this tonight. I think one thing that actually does help us is we're old, right? Like we have 6 juniors, 6 seniors, or sorry, we have 6 seniors, 5 juniors, and a sophomore. But we're old. And they're fighting for their senior season, right? Like, I mean, a lot of our kids, we start 4 seniors and 1 junior. And so there's just this level of like, this is one and done now. And we kind of talked about that. And I mean, I do believe that obviously the game previously, being what it was, our kids really did think that we kind of let one.
Did it disappear on you too, Danny?
It did.
Let's see, hopefully we can get Kelsey back. But yeah, I mean, to her point, Tipner finished with 33 points. But I mean, just a really impressive performance. And what I was getting at was just they never let their foot off the gas. Like it's so easy. Human instinct kicks in to let off the gas and ease up just a little bit. But they never really let that happen. And it was just so impressive. Every time that I look down, it's like, is Noblesville going to make a run? They got under 10 points. Nope, Westfield hits a big bucket on the other end to keep it at 8 to 10 points and in that range. It was just such a resilient performance. And as Kelsey was referring to, I mean, just the veteran leadership. I knew they were an old team. I didn't realize they were that old. And that counts for a lot. It
really does.
What did we start talking about when we come into the tournament? It was just what the older teams and how they'd respond. And yeah, here's Kelsey right now.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. So, yeah, I mean, just I'm sure having an older team, too, it's such a big difference, especially against a team like Noblesville and even just preparing and going in.
Yeah, I mean, our kids, I mean, like I said, I think that just that sense of urgency, right? Like you know that every game could possibly be your last, that you get to put on your high school jersey. And when that's the case, like there is a level of it that it starts to matter as much as you don't want it to, like it starts to matter more as they get older, right? They know that every year your team changes. Like this is the last time that this group is going to be who we are, right? So we got to take advantage of every time that we get an opportunity to step foot on the floor. And we just kind of talk to the juniors and our sophomore, and it's like you got to fight to keep these seniors in their jerseys as long as we possibly can. Like that's what we're trying to do. Like how long can we keep them out there? How long can we keep playing? And I mean, that's the beautiful thing about Indiana basketball. Like, I mean, it's one and done. So like you get an opportunity to play a great team, and you just have to. I mean, really, you just have to be good for a night. Like you have to beat them one time. So, yeah, our kids have really, they were really good this week in practice. So I was proud of their effort tonight.
Kelsey, I want to ask you about your defensive philosophies. I think the perception, we'll call it, of your team is that you're going to be in every game because you can guard. And if you just look statistically, I think that backs it up. So, I mean, what are some of your defensive philosophies that you could share with us? Why are you such a good defensive basketball team? You talked a little bit about what Crockett does, but just from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we like to switch a lot when we can. We don't switch everything, but I think because of if you look at us across the board, size wise, athleticism, we're able to do that a lot. Like you look at a kid like Sam Price for us, a lot of people don't realize how well Sam can actually move laterally, but she really can. She can sit in a stance and she can guard. And so I think that sometimes that helps us. Like we're able to really cause a lot of issues because it gets hard when you're switching everything. We try to be like we're more of a pack line, like gap type of team. We try to put pressure on people when we can, but we recognize like, I mean, really, I tell people this all the time. Like, we're gonna scout people a lot. We want to know what they're doing. We want to know what their weaknesses are, and really, we just want to try to make them do what they're not comfortable doing. And so we spend a lot of time on that. Like as coaches, we watch a ton of film. Um, and obviously, there's players that just make that job way harder, like when they're really good. Like in Sectional 8, you got obviously Tipner, you got Makalewski, you got all these kids that can really score the basketball. But yeah, I mean, I think like we just talk about toughness on the defensive end, like making it really hard to get past us. And our kids have bought into that. Like, and I think another thing that makes us different is if you look at our scoring across the board, right? Like just flipping it to the other side, like I was looking at our stats at the end of the season. We have Sam Price led us with 8.9 points. And then you have Lindsey Van Dyke that's 8.5. And then you have 7.6. And then you have another one that's right around 7. And it's just like we're all right there, and we really don't care who leads us. Like Audra comes off the bench for us tonight and has 17. And our kids are super excited. Like we're one of those teams that somebody said it tonight when I was in an interview, like, you don't know who's going to score for you. And I'm like, you're right. Like it's a question mark. Um, but really, yeah, I mean, back to the defensive side, like we just want to put pressure on people as much as we can and try to switch a lot. We try to, I mean, yeah, it depends. I mean, it's always dependent on scout though. Like we do different things with post players. We had to double obviously Avery Gordon when you're talking about Brownsburg, but we try to be very diligent in our scout work and try to prep our kids for taking away what people like to do.
Lauren Vota, Fisher's coach, was on with us yesterday, and we were talking about you and your team, and she mentioned too just the buy-in that you've got and all the kids committed to that. Has that come naturally with this group of kids?
You know, it's fun for me because this is year 3, right? Like I think in my first 2 years, like I've had really good kids. Like Ellie Kelleher, I love that kid. Reagan Lorenzen, like Kiki Lovelace. Like my first year, I had 3 seniors, Emery, Marin, and Brittany, and all of those kids. Like the biggest thing for me has been pouring into them relationally and just building relationships. And I think that's what's helped. Like, I mean, my college coach would always say, like, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think like that's been my philosophy going in these first 3 years and trying to just build that foundation. And I'd like to think that they play really hard. I like to think they play really hard for me. And, but it's because as coaches, we also want to work really hard for them and give them everything that we've got. And I think that they've seen that from us. They know how much we care, how much we're invested in them. And yeah, I think this year it's been fun. Like this class is just special, right? Like I told them, I'll get like this is a little bit personal, but they've been through a lot of life stages with me. Like they were with me when I got engaged. They were with me when I was married. And then this year, my husband and I were able to tell them like we're expecting twins in August. So like we've just bonded. Like, and it's outside of basketball, but then on the court that allows for them just to. I think they play really hard. So
Congratulations on the twins.
Congrats. I
That's
didn't know
awesome
that.
news.
thank you.
That's
Yes.
awesome news.
Yes. Our girls were so excited. That's a different video. I can show you guys that one day.
Absolutely. I'd love to see it tomorrow night after the game. Huh? Also, Ellie Kelleher mentioning her. How about that shot that she hit the other night? I think you got her on Sports Center.
Oh my goodness. You guys, like, that's like Ellie to a T, by the way. Like Ellie's one of those kids. She was so fun to coach. Like I tell people all the time, like Ellie would pick up the phone and call me and we would just have 30-minute conversations. Like I'd be cooking dinner and she'd be driving home from a workout or something and we'd just talk on the phone for 30 minutes on our way home. But she's really stepped up. She's filling in as a starter right now. Obviously, Indiana Wesleyan had an injury that's led her into that spot, but she stepped up in a big way the last couple of games and it's been fun to watch. Like I still talk to her. I went up and watched them play a couple of Saturdays ago and got to spend a little bit of time with her after the game. And she's a funny kid, but that's like her. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, she would shoot stuff like that after practice. And I'm like, yeah, that's maybe at some point you'll have to use that in a game. And I guess she did. And now it got her on ESPN.
We'll chalk it up to good coaching. We'll just spin that as Kelsey was working with her after practice on that sort of stuff. Like you'll never know when you need to shoot this like just totally crazy shot.
Crazy one.
Yeah. So looking ahead to tomorrow now as we bring things home with you, Kelsey, just general thoughts on the HSC matchup. How do you go about, without giving too much away, obviously taking care of their big three and obviously some of the other pieces that have been coming along?
Yeah, I mean, HSC is dangerous, right? Like, I mean, one, they're undefeated for a reason. Okay. They have a big three, but they also have a supporting cast that's able to knock down shots and they're able to do some things, right? Like they're bought into their roles. I think that's the thing about HSE that I've noticed. Like they're comfortable just doing what they're being asked to do. The other thing that HSE people don't really realize, like obviously they can score the basketball, but defensively they switch everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're switching a ton. They are really physical with you. They pressure you. And so we're going to have to handle their pressure. And yeah, we're going to have to be us on the defensive end and find ways to get stops. And that's going to be a big part of what we have to do tomorrow night for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kelsey, so much for joining us. Congratulations again. Looking forward to seeing you guys in action tomorrow night.
Yep.
Good job, Kelsey. See you tomorrow night.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Take care. Westfield coach Kelsey Steele with us. Lauren Bear is in the queue. Lauren, if you could turn your camera because you're sideways right now, we'll bring on Lauren coming off of Tri-West.
Just while she's doing that, I think the lead, when you're a defensive-minded basketball team like Westfield, who's had struggles through the season, scoring the ball at times, the lead is critical. And so I think the first text I got was like, it's 21-5 Westfield. That's it. That has to be one of the main focuses in preparation tonight. They have to find a way to get off to a good start because the way that they sit on pack line, particularly against a well-coached Hamilton Southeastern team, it's different when you're up 5 versus down 5. So I think the start will be the one big thing to watch tomorrow. They got it tonight and they got a W. It'll be tough to get it tomorrow if they don't get another good start.
I think that text was probably from me, and it was actually preceded by Danny. Oh my God, you won't believe this. I
actually think that's correct.
Yeah. Was how that happened. We're gonna go ahead here and pivot down to Class 3A. That's where I was at tonight. I was out in Lebanon. My first time getting to see Lauren Bear, who we're about to have on the show. Danny, you love watching this kid play. I mean, she can shoot it from everywhere. Makes all the hustle plays, and I tell you what, man, Tri-West is playing really well. They had a nice win tonight over Guerin Catholic. Lauren went off. We're going to go ahead and bring her on. Lauren, good to see you. How are things?
Hi, I'm good.
So congrats again on the win tonight. Just What's been working for this group here down the stretch? You got the big win over Chitar. Just what's been clicking for you guys?
I don't know. I feel like we're all just finally playing together and like finding that momentum that we needed all season.
When could you kind of start feeling things coming together? Like, was there a point in the season when things started clicking?
I feel like it was actually a hard game because like it was senior night. It was big. We all had our doubts because we were projected to lose by like double digits, and we just came in and held our own.
Coach talked a lot about mental toughness, and I think you and I might have talked about that a little bit after the game too. But as a player, how do you try and build that and make sure that you're ready for the ups and downs of postseason play?
I think we all just kind of try to stay locked in and focus on what needs to be done, and like we can't focus on our past and what we did wrong and everything.
Do you think if you guys had played this game tonight earlier in the season, so you get down by, I think it was 10 at one point early in the second quarter, do you think the response tonight is different than it may have been at the beginning of the season when you kind of came back and pulled away a little bit?
Yeah, even like a couple weeks ago, if we got down by 10, we would see that and just all be out of the game. But I think we realized that it could be like our last game playing together, so we just had to stay in it.
Was that kind of the message in the huddle tonight when things started going a little sideways?
Yeah, when everyone got jumbled, I kind of just told them just to stay together and just keep playing our game.
I'm assuming for you, could you kind of feel things starting to swing when you hit that 3-pointer where you kind of got pushed out to the volleyball line and just kind of chucked it up and in?
Yeah, when I shot that, I was like, oh, this is an air ball. But I think once I made it, everyone kind of got like confidence in themselves, and we just kept playing.
I missed the video on that, Danny, but she does. Was it the pass off the mark, or did the defender like bump you off of your spot?
I don't know. My leg was like sideways, and I was just like, I'm open, so I guess I'll just shoot it.
So, it looked like you hesitated slightly. Were you thinking about like doing something else, or was it just like, oh, forget it?
My feet weren't even like they weren't set like perfectly, so I was like, I made my other one, so I was like, I might as well just shoot it because I might be feeling it.
She did that, Danny, casually, and it lit him on a run there. One other question for you before I toss it over, Danny. The third quarter is kind of when you guys won that game. You held them scoreless until I think the first 6 minutes. They didn't get a field goal until 7 minutes in, and you guys really kind of started to take control a little bit. Just talk us through what you guys were doing defensively and what was clicking for you as a team over that stretch.
Yeah, I think our defense is good. We held number 14 or whatever. We did good on her. We didn't let her. We knew we had to stop her from shooting. And then I think some of our steals just went to offense and then just got buckets.
So, Lauren, congratulations on a nice win. Just spin it forward to tomorrow. I mean, what are the next 12, 18 hours for you look like in preparation for the Danville game?
We have like our pre-practice and everything, and then we're just trying to stay off our feet because it's a big game and anything can happen. But I'm just gonna try to not focus on it so much and just. Now
you've played Danville earlier in the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of problems did they present? Can you give us some not necessarily keys to the game, but things that maybe you're focused on with your individual performance tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean their defense is like they're pretty good at that. So I just have to get open and find my teammates too if they're stopping me.
Tonight, you obviously had a big load, but something that jumped out when I was talking to Daniel Carter, Garen's coach, was just everybody was contributing for you guys. And you mentioned too your teammates. So I'll let you shout them out and just what you saw from all the other girls tonight in terms of hitting shots and kind of picking up the slack for you guys.
Yeah, I mean at the beginning none of us could really hit. None of them were hitting shots, and I think once we like got it going, everyone was confident in each other. And once they saw me hitting shots, I think it just led to them.
What's the chemistry like between you and Aniah? You both are averaging, 17, 13 points a game, putting up monster numbers. Just what's it like playing with her and the chemistry between the two of you?
I mean, it's good. We've been playing with each other since I was a sophomore. So we've been playing for like 2 or 3 years, and she just knows how to find me if I'm doing good or what.
And then too, with this, just for you as a senior, with this group, totally new group, as you mentioned from before, just what's it been like getting to grow with them and go through this journey with them this season?
I mean, it's been fun. This is probably one of the best years we've had. And I think all our chemistry is just finally, like, we've all put it together.
Yeah. Got to ask too, you had, what was it, 42, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
42 back there in December. Just talk to us about that record-setting performance. And I mean, what is it like to score 42 points in a high school basketball game?
Ooh, I mean, that was weird. I was just, at one point, I was just like throwing it up and they were going in. It was one of those games. So, I mean, it was really fun, but I mean, yeah.
So you have that. You have the 1,000-point. If you had to pick one of the two, which are you more proud of? If you have to pick one,
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like 42 points is kind of good.
that's kind of wild.
Yeah.
That's one of those that makes you pause and
Mm-hmm.
it opens your eyes pretty
Well, I
quickly.
didn't realize I was there till I was like in the third quarter, and then they were like, whatever.
Oh, so you didn't scoreboard peek, you didn't see the numbers up on the board or anything?
No, I had only like 8 points in like the first half, so I was like, it was a regular game, and then it just kind of went wild.
So just, I think we can get you out on this. Like, so you're a senior, okay?
Mhm.
Just talk to us about your plans. Is college basketball in your future? Are you going to go another route, another sport?
I don't know. I'm still kind of like deciding on that. I think I'm just gonna see how like the end of the season goes. But I have like a couple options, but I'm just still unsure. It's a big commitment, so I don't know yet.
Okay.
Sure. Well, Lauren, thanks so much for hopping on with us. We'll let you start resting up for tomorrow. Best of luck tomorrow night, and hopefully we'll be seeing you again here down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Take
Good
care.
luck. Great job tonight, Lauren.
Thank you.
This is Lauren Bear of Tri-West, the
Good for
senior
her.
there. So we've talked about Noblesville lost to Westfield, Zionsville lost to IHSAA, a lot more competitive than the first time. They get running clocked around this time, which in all seriousness is a big step after being on the wrong side of a pretty lopsided game the first time around. So it'll be IHSAA versus Westfield in Sectional 8. We set the stage there. Cathedral beats Addicts to set up a rematch with Purdue Poly in their sectional. Gibson Southern, as we mentioned at the top, they hold off Castle in a game that came down to the wire to set up a matchup with Reitz at Reitz. Jennings County, Danny, which we'll show a highlight of, they win on a last-second shot by the freshman to beat Batesville 55-54. They'll play Greensburg. Lanesville held off Providence 56-50 down in Class 2A. And then another 4A score that caught my attention was Snyder taking out Carroll Fort Wayne 58-53. But the one thing that we'll talk about next when Kyle Neddenriep pops on and the games that you were at, Ben Davis sectional 11, Avon 60, Ben Davis 56, Pike 64, Plainfield 62. That one came down to a buzzer beater by Kamari Booker. I'll let you take whichever game you'd like to talk about first, because I mean they both just looked absolutely insane.
We'll talk about. I think we'll spend a longer time on Pike and Plainfield. So I'll touch Ben Davis and Avon just from my perspective. So I got there a little bit late, and I walked in right at like a 6-0 run. And then I looked around, and the atmosphere was electric. Like, it was an unbelievable. There were tons of fans there. The fans were loud. They were engaged. They were cheering. And you just look down on the court, and you're like, here's Stan Benj doing stand bench things in the postseason again. And he had kids that were just playing out of their minds. Aubrey Ingram is one. Shania Curry is another. I just looked down and this was my honest thought. I actually said it to somebody that I was sitting next to. I'd never seen those kids play basketball like that. Like, they looked like completely different kids than what I had originally screened and seen at, through bits and pieces and different episodes throughout the season. So there was an elevation to attention. They were just more active, and I think it just made for a better basketball game. But in the end, Aniah Smith was unbelievable in this game. And did she get some timely shooting from some of her teammates? And Kyle will talk about that. The answer to the question is yes. But in the end, it is an Aniah-centric basketball team, and she is expected to guard, she's expected to handle, she's expected to distribute, and she's expected to score. And she did all of those things. I mean, she was stealing the ball, she was finishing, she was making her free throws, she had big assists. Somebody that wasn't familiar with Aniah Smith said to me, is like, what is her story? Like, who is that?
So good.
She is so
insanely good.
And it might have been one of the best. I mean, I've seen Aniah Smith do some crazy good things in a basketball game before, but this might have been one of her better performances because of the environment, because of the stakes. And there were a lot of times where, they had the ball down multiple possessions and you have to make a play. And she would just make the play. It is, if somebody saw that score, they probably would have hypothesized, oh, well, maybe Aniah Smith probably played pretty well. She did. And that was why Avon is moving on to face Pike tomorrow in the sectional championship.
25 points for Aniah Smith, 13 for McKaylee Butts. And that was something when I saw Avon there without Aniah Smith, who didn't play much against Ben Davis the first time around, was just Butts had a big game. Some of the other kids really stepped up, and that jumped out to me against a really quality Franklin Central team who we talked about early in the week, and they moved on to the sectional final night. But they're finding that production from everywhere. And in that style of play that they like to play, where it's a little bit more frenetic, Will does such a good job with that. That's really great. So they get that experience against a really tough team, and then you throw back in the point guard. And my lasting memory of Aniah Smith and watching her play is the county semifinals or quarterfinals against Plainfield last year, where I think she had 2 or 3 steals right in a row, and both of them she just zips through the defense, lays it in off of inbound attempts. And the kid is just crazy quick. She's so much fun to watch, and really, I think she's starting to get her appreciation now. Obviously, the junior all-stars not last year, but a kid who flew under the radar kind of up until that point. She dealt with a knee injury there and some things like that, but just wicked talented and a friend of the show.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We've had her on. And she gets the opportunity to really do it on a big stage tomorrow. I mean, she can really punctuate her high school career and how excellent it has been with a sectional win. Kyrie Irving, that's the name that I was thinking about when I was watching her play. Like if that tells you, like, the kid, you can't stay in front of her. I mean, she is her change of pace, got a tight handle. She finishes, but I mean, Kyrie is like, she's unbelievable. I was speechless.
Yeah, just an absolute blast to watch. Now we're joined by another friend of the show here momentarily, Kyle Neddenriep, as he's plugging something in, so we'll give him a second to get plugged in. Kyle Neddenriep of the Indianapolis Star. Kyle was there covering the game for us, helping me out, which I always appreciate. Kyle, what's the word, brother?
Man, what a night. It was more than I bargained for. I wasn't ready for the finality and the intensity of sectional basketball, I don't think, but it was a blast. And what a finish, man. That Pike the Pike finish was amazing, and a great game. I mean, I felt like Plainfield, had it in command, 15-point lead with about midway through the third, and then Pike's defense and their pressure just really kind of got to Plainfield. But yeah, I mean, amazing game, and the Avon game was amazing too. They were both really good games.
I'll let you and Danny commiserate on that game since you both were there. And I'll just play some highlights from Clark No Paywall Wade as you two chat. Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, so Kyle, it seems like to me it was tale of two halves, right? And I'll set the stage this way. The same two teams played for the regional championship last year. Pike takes the halftime lead, takes a lead. They come in and adjust, and it's a different game in the second half. Plainfield ends up winning and advancing. Felt very similar, just opposite tonight. It felt like Pike was really uncomfortable in the first half. Plainfield probably wanted to speed them up and did speed them up, and they missed a lot of layups, a lot of free throws. But in the second half, you had mentioned, Pike really kind of stepping in and making Plainfield feel uncomfortable. Did you see it the same way in kind of a tale of two halves?
Yeah, I did, and I think part of it too was Berkeley Williams, Plainfield's guard. She picked up her fourth foul, right at the end of the and to Pike's credit, they were already on a run, but her getting her fourth foul, that it felt like that changed things a little bit too. And talked to Kurt Benj after the game a little bit, and he mentioned that, and also just their inability to handle that pressure regardless was a big deal. And he mentioned too that when right when Plainfield got to that lead to 15, and then Pike kind of came right back at them, they punched back and got it to 7. And he said that he felt like that was a key point too, where they didn't really respond to that initial run, and he felt like that kind of allowed Pike to get confident. As you see there, I mean, they were you could just kind of feel it. It was one of those type of things where it just felt like if they had enough time, Pike was going to win the game. And then Plainfield did respond. They did hit a couple shots there late. Dugan hit that huge 3 with 17 seconds left. That was after Menser got the she got a steal. Pike had the ball in a 1-point lead, and they turned it back over to him. And Menser got the ball, took it down the floor, missed, but got it back and then kicked it out. And I can't remember who made that pass to Dugan, but I'll have that in the story. But then Dugan hit the three, and it looked like they'd kind of responded. But then, credit Pike, they came right back down the floor and got a foul call. And then Booker made both free throws and kind of set him up again. And then Booker got the steal. So then they got the ball out of bounds with 3.5, and that was a great play too. I mean, I don't know how Booker got that shot. I mean, her footwork was incredible on that play, to be able to turn and not travel and then bank it in. I mean, it was. So that she did get it off. So pretty incredible. I mean, all around. I mean, just to get that off and get it off in time, as you see there, that nice spin. I mean, that's a big time move. So. But pretty cool. I mean, man, that was exciting, and Plainfield's really good too. That was a good team they beat tonight, as both of you guys know.
Question for both of you guys: How did Plainfield match up with the physicality that Pike brings? I know, Danny, you and I have talked about it. Kyle, I messaged you about that, but the Marley Jeffers kid, Kamari Booker, obviously, it felt like that was an area that Pike could potentially exploit coming into tonight.
Yeah, I felt like. That to me, that was the biggest. It was the pressure. The pressure on the guards, and then inside, I felt like Booker. I think she had 12 of her 16 were in the second half. And then Jeffers too, and I'm still kind of
divine
a bit here. Jeffers didn't score a lot, but she was definitely a presence inside as well for Pike. So. It felt like they were the more physical team. Like you said, I mean, for sure. But Plainfield was. I mean, they can counterpunch and make shots, and they definitely did that. And Menser came out. I think she had 16 in the first half. So she was on it. I don't know, Danny, what you saw. It looked like she got injured there for a second, and. She missed some shots after that. I don't know if that's why. I don't want to say that's why, but she did kind of get banged up a little bit. She only had 4 points in the second half, but man, she's a player. And I watched her dad play, and he's in high school or in college, and he was tough as nails, and she's the same way. So people are gonna have a hard time stopping her the next couple of years.
Yeah, I talked with Mike for a little bit after the game. For the first half, I actually sat right behind the Plainfield bench, and she did. I think at the end of the first quarter, she comes off and then goes into the locker room. We'll say loses her lunch, and then comes back, sits down, and Kurt and Mike just are like, "Are you good?" And she's like, "Yeah." And they just put her back in the game 30 seconds later. Now, I mean, that's number one, she may be dealing with some illness and things like that. But I think the thing that you really have to look at is in the absence of big bodies that have to bang on, back to Hank's original question, Jeffers and Booker, Menser had to do a lot of that tonight. Some of that was the lack of another big body. Some of that was foul trouble. Some of that was scheme and switch and some of that. But Menser was asked to do probably more than what I really remember her having to do with Plainfield. She hit the shots early. You were talking about Kyle in the first half, and that was great, but she had to handle the basketball. She had to rebound the basketball, and that stuff wears on you. I mean, you got to go if you have to go 3 rounds with a heavyweight fighter that's going to punch you, you can do it and you can stay on your feet. You got to go 12. I mean, you're just getting hit the entire time. And then when you add this little episode of having to go into the locker room at the end of the first quarter to come back, now hydration is an issue, strength is an issue, physicality is an issue. So, and I'm not picking on Hannah. It's just a microcosm of the entire basketball team. Hank, you're right. Pike was just more physical tonight. Another thing I would add to that is the points in the paint, Kyle, seemed like if they scored 30 points in the second half, they probably scored all 30 points in the paint or free throws. Like, it wasn't like a kid that hit, hey, like Aubrey Parker, for example, like 4 threes in the second half. It wasn't that. It was Jeffers at the rim. It was Booker at the rim. It was Divine at the rim. And it was relentless. It was on offensive rebounds. It was on attacks. I mean, if you ran that highlight package again, it is nothing but shots at the front of the rim for Pike. And that's a very difficult thing. It's just a bad matchup for Plainfield. It was just a bad, I mean, that's just the way that I would categorize it, as just a bad matchup. But the other thing that the physicality does, and Kyle had mentioned it, it took them out of their timing on their dead ball sets. And there's a couple of examples of that. They run a really cool set with different options on it where Hannah either catches the ball or is the first in a double stagger and then eventually gets a flare. They ran it 3 times in the basketball game. They ran it once and the ball pressure threw the timing off, and they had to do it again, then ran it again, didn't get an opportunity, and then ran it again in the second half, and the girl that was handling the ball got picked. Like, that ball pressure took them out of their rhythm. When I say that Pike made Plainfield uncomfortable, it was in every aspect that physicality would make them feel uncomfortable. And it it was probably the reason why Pike is going to play tomorrow night and not Plainfield, unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember looking down, and there was like 6 minutes left, and Pike was down by 5. And I was like, if they can score 6 points, I think they're going to win by 1. It just felt like Plainfield just wasn't getting any shots, and they did end up scoring some after that, obviously, but it just felt like Pike was on the attack so much. And like you said, getting shots in the paint, was such a big deal. And I will say, you brought up Divine. I mean, I thought she was, she had an and one late where she just ripped the ball away from Plainfield and scored and got fouled. I mean, that was tough. She was, as much as anybody, a big part of that too. So, tip your hat to her too, because she was really good. She's only a sophomore, right? She's going to be a good player.
Yeah, Divine's
good. Yeah, she's really talented. Let's talk about the first game too, boys. Avon-Ben Davis. Avon, it seemed like every time that I checked the score, Ben Davis was just clinging to a couple possession lead. Then suddenly it's like Aniah Smith kind of happened, and Avon just started pulling up, and then she gets some big free throws down the stretch.
Yeah, I thought Aniah was clearly she was fun to watch. I mean, she's very tough to defend, and she had the second half. She had I think 18 of her 25 were in the second half. It felt like she had more in the first half even, but it was really like I said, most of her, and she got to the foul line a lot. I did ask her. She missed a free throw there pretty late in the game. She missed a couple of them, and she was kind of like, you could tell she was like, what in the world is, how did I miss that? And she came back and made the one she had to make there late. But, I really felt like, there was a time in that game early on when I thought Avon was kind of run away from them. And then Ben Davis, they're down, I think, by 8 at one point. Yeah, 22-14, Ben Davis was down. Then they came back, and then it looked like they were up by 8 in the third quarter. And it was just it was one of those type of games where I felt like it really felt like all 4 teams were like really even. It's like one of those nights where you felt like, you could replay this and roll the dice again and you'd come up with something different, for sure. But Smith was the answer. I mean, she was the best player on the court, in my opinion. And I think probably most people watching, and, I felt like if she needed to get to the basket, she could. If she wanted to get fouled, she could. If she wanted to dish it off, she could. And Avon hit 2. Danny, you might have to remind me there was 2 big threes there. They went from
number 11.
Yeah, 50-50 to 56-50. And then Avon's playing from a little bit of a lead there from that point forward. So really good, stretch there. That was about midway through the fourth quarter, and they never trailed after that, although it did get down to 1 point again with 25 seconds left. But Smith hit 1 of 2. Ben Davis missed, and then she made 2 of 2 with about 6 seconds left. So, but yeah, I really felt like that was a game that, again, Ben Davis guard play, they struggled with turnovers, had a lot of turnovers. That was kind of their kryptonite a little bit. But again, I thought Avon, Smith was just kind of the answer every time out there.
That was Maya Thompson and McKaylee Butts who hit those threes that you guys are talking about that pushed it out to 56 to 15.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. That was a big time three. And it was, sometimes it's a simple game, right? If help comes off the strong side corner, you throw it there. And Aniah has to be sometimes uncomfortably aggressive, where it's just she has to get in there and sometimes try to make a play against two or try to make a dribble move in the middle third when there's just not a lot of space. But the one thing we talk a lot about on this show, Hank, are the teams and the players that can make you pay when you make a mistake. And help off the strong side corner is a mistake, and Aniah Smith threw a strike. And what did you say her name was again, Hank?
McKaylee Butts?
No, the other one.
Maya Thompson.
I mean, and I think that was the big three that put them up 6. I think it put them up maybe 56-50.
Flipped, yeah.
That was a big time three, and it was true too.
So let's spin this ahead a little bit to tomorrow, so Kyle can get to riding. What are your prognostications, predictions for tomorrow? Having a chance to have seen both teams up close and in person now. Danny, let's start with you.
It's very different, right? Because when you play a team like Plainfield and you have a great scorer like Menser, she's gonna demand a lot of the defensive attention. But she doesn't have the ball a lot of times. And Benj and that staff will move her to the point guard occasionally, but she's not the point guard on that team. The challenge in having a kid like Aniah Smith is she has the ball for 80% of the game. It's just in her hands making plays. So it'll be interesting to see how he defends her, right? Because there's a lot of different ways you could do it. You can get physical with her with one player, but if she never gives it up, that's a really difficult thing to do. Or you can bring double, and then I think it's going to be on the role players of Avon to like Butts and Thompson to hit big shots again. But I think that they're going to need to do that. Pike is a really difficult matchup for everybody because they have size, they have athleticism, and they just guard you. They will find a way to make the game really effectively ugly.
Kyle, what's your read on things?
I would agree. If I'm Pike, I think I'm content putting shots up and going and getting the rebound, and just try to physical and just win the offensive glass. And I would feel pretty good about winning that battle inside. But I would be, really interested to see how, kind of like Danny said, how Pike defends Smith and how she responds to that, because kind of the fun of this, and I love sectional basketball. It's to me the most fun, rivals playing each other, teams that know each other, that played against each other a lot. And from talking to Will tonight from Avon, it's like, he came in, this was his first group were these seniors, and I think they're going to be really motivated. He's not going to want this to end, and those seniors aren't, and that's kind of the fun of this too, is like, you don't want to go down. And Pike does have, Pike has a lot of younger players as well. So, and they do have seniors also, but, that's kind of the finality for the seniors of, and I'm sure I could hear him before the fourth quarter tonight, and it was pretty rousing, speech he gave them. So, I think they'll be motivated and ready to play. I was impressed with Avon tonight. I thought they got punched back by Ben Davis, and then they took it back to him. So that was impressive, I thought. So I think they'll be ready. I think Pike will win, but I think it's going to be a close game.
I think another clue too was how effective the 10th grader at Aniah Curry was for Ben Davis at attacking the rim. The reason why I say that is because she is one of the kids on Ben Davis with some size, and so she has the ability to get into the paint. The reason why I use that as a clue is because, and you look at the last play for Pike, Keith told me after the game that Kamari wasn't actually supposed to sit on weak side block. She was supposed to flash to the elbow, and it's supposed to be a rip and go. He was trying to set up a driving lane for Kamari Booker. Kamari's ability, because Aniah Curry had so much success, her ability to get into the paint off the bounce tomorrow is going to be critical for them. and it's going to be a very difficult matchup. So they're going to have to bring help. They're going to have to Will's going to have to bring help. He's going to have to congest the paint. But I would suspect that Keith is going to attack everybody not named Aniah Smith off the bounce, and I think he's going to do it with Booker.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Kyle, thanks again for hopping on with us, buddy. We'll talk soon, bud.
You bet. Thanks, guys. Have fun.
Thanks, Kyle.
We're going to go from that Kyle to another Kyle Sokeland, who is down in Evansville Reitz, where Gibson
there you go,
Southern
Hank. Now you're in your rhythm. Reitz, baby.
I have it spelled out phonetically too, so it's RIGHT apostrophe or like hyphen S, just to make sure that I didn't screw it up, and I still almost did. Gibson Southern comes away with a 39-37 win over Castle. Paige Schnaus. I swear we had this exact conversation last year on this night, talking about Paige Schnaus. 18 points, 17 rebounds, 5 blocks. I mean, let's start there, Kyle.
I mean, you're 100% correct, because semifinal round last year, she made the game-winning bucket to beat Memorial in front of that 4,000 packed gym up at Gibson Southern. Tonight, they funneled the ball to her whenever no one else could score, and she put them on their back in the second half. I think 14 over 18 points after halftime. She made the go-ahead bucket with 26 seconds left. I mean, she looked like a Division I player. I mean, no doubt about it.
Just was that a matchup going in, Kyle, that you expected them to exploit as well as they did? Gibson Southern with Paige inside.
Yeah, because I mean, Castle's strength is not inside. I think their biggest player is maybe 5'9". She's not really a true post player, so for most of the year they've gone zone. And it works for them because they've got so many guards and athletes and wings that can just pressure you and force turnovers. But if once they finally did get the mismatches on the inside, like you're watching now, she was able to score. I mean, and on the game-winning bucket, it was a pick and pop with her and Spink that she just confidently stepped up and made a shot. It was impressive. Like that bucket gave Castle a lead, and then they go right back down within 10 seconds, and she hits this.
Wow. So it's tied 37 all, and she hits that?
The bucket by Jordan Scott for Castle put them up 1 with, I think, 30 seconds left, and then she just calmly, with no hesitation, just hit that jump shot, which I asked her about, like last year. I don't know if she hits that consistently. Like, if she was pretty much more inside during that tournament run, but she feels more confident now, and she hit a 3, I think, in the third quarter that felt big, and I'm just looking at my notes here, and she looked better than she has all year since I've seen her.
It's the same narrative as it was last year too, right? When she just started peaking at the right time. I mean, some kids just have that in their DNA, and she's certainly established herself that. And I suppose when you mix that with a kid like Gabby Spink, who's been there and is going to play D1, and if the other piece can step up, you have a really dangerous team there in Gibson Southern. So, go ahead, Danny.
So qualify the score 39-37. I mean, it's just an unbelievable defensive efforts. And
for one, neither team could shoot well, and I think it had more to do with defense, because for some reason Castle kept trying to attack Paige, and she had 5 blocks. So if she wasn't deflecting the ball, she was just altering shots. So they finally had more success on the outside, because Jaden Scott had 17 points. Really felt like the only one who could make an outside shot for any team. And Castle's defense really just made Gabby work for anything and everything. She only had 11 points, but it was a struggle. She missed a bunch of shots. She was getting doubled, and no other teammate could make anything until Paige stepped up in the third quarter. So it was just no one really held the ball. Just put that out there. It was just a very physical, tough game.
It's like you saw the game that Austin Huff covered, where it was like 12-10 on Wednesday, and you're like, oh, that'd be fun. Maybe I'll get one of those.
I don't want to watch these often, to be honest with you, but if it happens, at least it was fun towards the end.
What was it? 11 points there for Gabby Spink as well, right? I'm skimming through your story.
Yeah, Paige 18, Gabby 11. No other Gibson Southern player scored more than 4. So just that type of night whereas Tuesday where it was like a team effort and everyone got involved. Tonight it was Paige and Gabby just going to work.
Did the better team win tonight, in your opinion?
Probably. I mean, coming in, I always thought these two teams were the best in the field, just because I think Castle has the better lineup 1 through 5 with the way they can shoot it and defend. But Gibson Southern's 1 and 2, and other coaches kept pointing to it. When you have those two players, it's going to be really tough to beat them. You want the other players like Nola Ravalette and Lauren Adamson to make plays, but it's two Division I players. I mean, I picked Gibson Southern coming in, but it wasn't by much, and it's 2 points tonight.
Let's spin it ahead now. Oh, sorry, Danny, did you have another one?
No, I didn't. I mean, 29 of the 39 points came from two players. I mean, I mean, Kyle, you talked about it with role player production, and we talked about it in the last game that we talked about. It's how it's the key to all of these games is who's going to be the Audra Parker and come in and hit 4 threes. Like it's you hear the same things in all of these basketball games.
Let's spin it ahead then, Kyle, to tomorrow, and then I'll bounce down to another big upset that we missed on our first time through. They get to play the Evansville team that starts with an R, the host of the sectional. It's been 1981 was their last state championship, 35 since they won any postseason hardware, according to you. They rolled in there 63-23 over Harrison. How do you handicap that matchup between Reitz and Gibson Southern?
Well, I would pick Gibson Southern as the favorite because they're going to have the two best players on the floor. And they've also got the pedigree of last year of knowing how to win these games. Because zero offense to the West Side folks, Reitz doesn't. I mean, like I wrote in the story, they won the state championship in 81, but they have not won a sectional since 90, I believe. And there was a long stretch from like 2002 on where they just didn't win any games at all. But now they're fine. They just have to learn how to win these. And that can be a challenge against teams like Gibson Southern or even Castle had come in because they haven't beaten Castle in 30 years. Mm-hmm. So even if no matter who it would have been like a mental game trying to get over that hump. For the Reitz, I think they're good defensively. They like to trap and force turnovers. It just depends if they're hitting shots from the outside, specifically Bailey Hape and Brylan Staley.
Yeah. Well, and also, so Khalees Mitchell's in this game. She's a 6'5" center for Reitz. And then you have Paige Schnaus, who you said was stepping out and playing and shooting the ball pretty well from the perimeter tonight, too. I think that's gotta be a big storyline going in, right? Is using Paige to pull Khalees out of the paint, I think has gotta be a big storyline.
And I've seen that from a lot of teams. I mean, Khalees is 6'5", and people, it's a cliche, but you cannot teach that. It's a guaranteed 10 and 7 every night at least. So when she gets pulled out, maybe for Gibson's sake, they can get someone else free on the wing, or maybe Gabby can have a better lane to drive and dish, if anything, or score. But at least they're the one team that probably has anyone that could come close to just physically matching with Paige.
Yeah, and Hape has good size too. I mean, Hape is 5'11", 6 feet tall. Also plays very physical, a lot more athletic, laterally fast, and can do a lot of different things on the floor. So she's going to present her size will present some problems too. Who's going to guard Gabby tomorrow, Kyle?
That's tough. I mean, I don't know if maybe they go 2-3 because that's what Castle did. Yeah, maybe just because, I mean, that keeps Khalees there in the middle to at least have a physical presence. I mean, if anyone to guard him, I don't know, because they've got some younger players that are kind of quick, but it's their first time playing someone like that in that environment. So, in my opinion, I could see them going 2-3, but I don't know when last time Reitz have done that. It's usually like a trap.
Well, you did a nice job kind of explaining how maybe different this Reitz team is, and they haven't had a lot of success in recent years and things like that. Gibson Southern on the flip side they won the state championship, and they know how to advance right, and they know how to cut down nets. Is that mental piece going to play a factor? I mean, do you think the stage is gonna be too big? Maybe.
I mean, I kind of wrote that at the end of my section on Reitz in my story. Just like I said, these girls, I think a couple of them made the sectional final 2 or 3 years ago, but they lost to Castle by about 30 points. So until you do it, until you play in that, I think it is a big topic. Just they're going to be at on their home court, but Gibson Southern travels very well. I mean, they had way more fans than Castle did tonight, and they did when North played on Tuesday. But it'd be interesting to see if anyone can step up and make the plays like we know Gibson Southern can, because we've seen it not just last year, but I've seen it every single year. Because usually it's Memorial against Gibson Southern, and Gibson Southern got their number time and time again, because they always had just one or two players that were better on that given night.
Kyle, just one more from me. The ball screen spin out that you talked about on the shot that ended up winning the basketball game with Schnaus, was that out of a timeout?
No, I don't think so. Because no,
okay,
I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember, because Castle scored, like on elbow shot from Scott. I think they just went right down and ran just those two pick and roll, pop, or whatever you want to do it, and go make a play. Because Castle called a bunch of timeouts on the next possession after that. I don't think Brasher did inside the last 2 minutes.
Good stuff, Kyle. One other game that I wanted to at least ask you about, set some line on. Princeton picking off Jasper tonight, 55-47 in the second semifinal over there. Tigers now climbing back towards the 500 mark. Just tell us what you heard and what you know about that one.
Yeah, I mean, Jasper coming in, I think, was the favorite because they're on their home floor. They had 15 wins. They gave Washington a very good game back in, probably December or January. And I had a feeling coming in that if anybody was going to, like, if Princeton could win that game, just because the idea with them is that they played hard every single game. And that's just a Travis Connor thing. Like back in Vincent's Lincoln, he won, I think, 4 straight sectional championships. They had probably more talent there, but they just always competed hard. And every other coach I talked to about them just mentions how hard they play and how tough it is to just get around them and have success against them. So I'm not surprised that Princeton won. I mean, I would classify that as really the only upset from Southwest Indiana this week so far. It's been very chalky, but I know they have some athletes. Jim, I can't remember her name, but Buford, Dame, and Taylor were in double figures, so they had good balance. It just felt like that was the one game that I pointed to in my mind where maybe we could see something happen.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thanks for hopping on with us, buddy. Have fun tomorrow night, and I actually will probably talk to you again tomorrow night. So, brew some coffee.
Of course, it feels like it. You always guys have my number, and it's always fun to talk.
Good stuff, buddy. Good stuff. We'll talk to you soon. Danny, I still have to write, but there's one more game that I wanted to get to before we dip out of here, and that is Jennings County's win tonight. I'll let you set the stage and talk to folks through what happened there.
Well, they won by 1, and they did so on the strength of a 3 that wasn't at the buzzer with 3 seconds left. The kid that hit the shot is a kid by the name of Aniston Kent. If you're a religious listener to the show, I don't know if any of those exist, but if you're a religious listener to the show, we talked about her at the Sneakers for Santa event, about how she got her first varsity minutes. Okay.
Oh,
this
that's right.
kid.
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, she's never going to go back and play JV. Well, she did. Okay. This kid probably had 5 varsity points. She did not score tonight. 5 varsity points the entire season. Okay. Did not score tonight and hits that shot for the right to play Greensburg in the sectional championship. Like, that is really cool when you know the history of, I mean, she's a good player. She's a good kid. She's going to be in the varsity rotation till the end of time. But when you have, I mean, what an unoriginal storyline. You got a scorer like Molly Ernst who gets, 2 defenders draped over her. Somebody has to step up and make a shot. And tonight in Jennings County, it was a little freshman who hit her first 3 of the entire season tonight, and it moves them on. I just think that's really cool.
That is awesome. Video, by the way, compliments, I believe, of Gabrielle Morin. She does a lot of the video work over at Jennings County. Does a phenomenal
Gabby
job.
does do it, and that is her video, yes.
Yeah, she does phenomenal work over there. But yeah, that's really cool. I remember that when you mentioned the Sneakers for Santa, that the light bulb clicked in. I remember, I think we were talking about that day of too, actually. So that's really awesome. Good for her. That's an awesome moment for that kid.
Good for her.
I mean, tomorrow the slate's set. There's some upsets, so there's going to be some different matchups. But I'm intrigued. Like, is anybody Westfield HSC? Like, I wouldn't count out Westfield. Not after what they did tonight. Like, you know what I mean? They caught the magic in the bottle tonight. Wouldn't surprise me to see them do it again. And even if they don't, the way that they defend, like we talked about with Kelsey, I mean, they're capable of grinding down teams. Pike, Avon, we dug into a little bit. The first time they met, that game was crazy where Pike rallied like a 20-point deficit in the second half and ended up winning in overtime. So many good games. Danville versus Tri-West, another rivalry game. You're going to get Roncalli, New Pal down there in 3A over at Indian Creek. A lot of the other matchups, Franklin Central, Mooresville, both moved on. Yeah, I mean, those were the ones that jumped out to me as I was scrolling through things. And obviously Cathedral Purdue Poly, which we mentioned earlier, that one interests me. I think that one could be a little bit tighter than maybe people expect. But then again, with how Cathedral's playing, that's going to be a very tough road for Purdue Poly. They're going to need to play a really good game. Bloomington South moves on. Homestead moves on with East. Columbia City, same thing. Sheridan Lapel, I believe, we're set up for that championship game. So that's going to be a tremendous showdown.
Which one was that?
Sheridan versus Lapel.
Sure. That's okay.
That's going to be a good one.
So we got it. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we got that one. Okay.
We did. The first time through, it was Sheridan controlled it really pretty well, but I know that Lapel was dealing with some stuff off the court. It kind of, it's tough when you have that stuff to balance. So a different set of circumstances this time. I'm just really curious to see how Lapel's different pieces around Aniah Wills are able to step up against Kenzie Garner and a really experienced supporting cast over there, Cecilia Tim, and some of the others over there. Pendleton Heights moves into the championship game. They're going to try and end their streak against, I believe, Mount Vernon moved through
Mount Vernon did. Got a great game from Zoe Wood and her first sectional win ever.
Yeah, 53-31 over Richmond. Pendleton Heights 67-25. I mean, it's fitting. That's the one that we'll end with. It's fitting for Pendleton Heights in order to get this monkey off their back and to end their sectional drought that it has to come against Mount Vernon, a team that has been the cause of so much postseason angst for them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 postseasons leading into last year ended with losses to Mount Vernon. So, this is the chance. I mean, and all these games have been one possession games and really ugly games too. Some of them 29-25 in 2023. So opportunities there for Pendleton Heights. We'll see if they can break through. And if not, it's going to be a very dangerous Mount Vernon team come through. Oh, and Lawrence Central was 26-26 with North Central late in the second half, found a way to pull away and get the win there. Lawrence Central did. So it'll be a Lawrence Township battle again tomorrow night in their sectional.
Yeah, so that's a big one. Up in the northern part of the state too, top left hand of the bracket, we get the rematch between Warsaw and Northridge. So those are the two best teams in that sectional. They're going to face off. They chalked through, and then Lake Central and Hammond Central, I think, is an interesting one too because of Lake Central's recent success in the Hutchinson coming in. I think this is one of the first games that Lake Central will play in sectional where they might not be the favorite to play. Oh, really? So I think that's probably an interesting one. Hammond Central is really good. And I believe, I'm not going to say what happened in the first one. I actually think that Hammond Central won that game, but it was close. And then, yeah, I mean, we talked about the other ones. You've kind of talked about the other ones, but yeah, we needed to get to Saturday. Westfield, obviously, with the biggest upset, really kind of upsets the brackets or busts the brackets. I think, as they like to say in March, February for basketball.
45-37 Hammond Central over Lake Central during the regular season, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah,
and we'll have a guest from that one too. Grace Oppenker from Northwest Indiana is going to join us. She's covering that game for NWI. So we'll have her on tomorrow night to talk about that game. I think that about covers it. Hey, one last thing. We'll just mention it on air because we've talked about it a lot. If you were Noblesville playing against HSC last night, how would you have defended HSC? Would you have gone triangle and two?
I think they're really comfortable now against every junk defense. Okay. Yeah. So I think it's going to be, as Kelsey said, scout dependent. Okay. And Maya's gotten really good at just being patient and movement without the ball. I think you have to respect their other shooters. I kind of go back to what I talked about before, where when Maya had a good run on Tuesday night in an ATO situation, Satterfield runs a play for Brindley. So I expect Westfield to do something a little bit different. I expect them to switch everything and not have one person draped over Maya. I think they're just going to use kind of a team defensive approach. That I'm just totally guessing there. But I just don't know if the boxing 1 and triangle 2 is going to bother HSC the way that it may have last year or even earlier this season. So I don't know. We'll see.
1,000th career point for Berkeley Williams tonight in Plainfield's loss. Corden Central senior Josie Vaughn became the program's all-time leader in assists in their win tonight, breaking the mark set by Bailey Orm. So a couple milestones from tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow night with a similarly loaded guest list. We'll tweet that out probably around the same time, 10:30, 10:45. So be sure to tune in. For Danny Rago, my name is Brian Henshin. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night.